Welcome again to the Oral History Broadcast. I'm Ray Mofield, and we're visiting today in Benton at Walnut Court, and we have Lavione Harmen. And Ms. Harmen, I sure thank you for letting me come and talk with you today. It's kind of a cloudy, gloomy day, but I believe you can cheer us up.
Yeah, try.
That's very good. Now, were you born in Marshall County, Miss
Yes,
Harmen?
yes, I was born in Marshall
So
County.
you've spent just about all of your days here, I
Marshall
guess.
County, yes, that's right.
And where were you born? In a neighborhood like Benton or Brewers or
Benton, around close to Benton.
near
Yeah,
Benton? Okay.
Yes, that's
So
right.
you haven't strayed very far from the
No.
nest. Well, tell us your dad's name,
Henry York,
Henry York, and your mother was
Ida Turner before she married.
Ida Turner. Well, some of my kinfolks were named Turner. Lex Turner, I don't know if you ever heard of him or not, but he lived out toward Olive. I guess there are lots of Turners in the world,
Yeah.
of course. There is a billionaire in Atlanta named Turner, Ted Turner. So the Turners, in many cases, have done very well for themselves.
Yeah.
Were there more children than you?
Oh, yeah, I have a twin sister, Euleen Salone, that goes to your church.
Euleen
Salone.
Uh-huh.
Well, she's my twin sister.
Well, I didn't know that.
And my oldest brother.
I need to interview her, don't I?
Yeah. My oldest brother was named Chester York. He died.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I forgot how long. It's been over a year.
Yes.
And then, my other brother, Red, they call him Red York.
Oh, yes.
Well, that's my brother. And Londo York, and Joe York, he's a carpenter, and I knows him. And me and Euleen, and there was 6 of
So
us.
you had 6 in the family.
Yeah,
That
6.
was a large family. Did your dad farm for a living?
Yeah, he farmed.
Nearly everybody back in those
yeah,
days
yeah.
did. I can say that about my dad, of course. He largely farmed all of his life. And if you were born near Benton, did you go to grade school at Benton?
No, we lived out in the country, like,
Mm-hmm.
And we went to Salem Chapel most of I guess all of my years.
Well, just about where was Salem Chapel located? I don't believe I remember that. Was
Well, you go up here, do you know where Wilson Henson lives? John Stranger lived back off of the
Well,
highway?
yes, vaguely.
it's way back over there
Mm-hmm.
in them woods,
Mhm.
That's where I first started.
Salem Chapel. Well, that gives us another one of the good schools. Were you aware that Dr. Traylor had bought the last one-room school in Griggstown, and they're rebuilding it on the high school campus?
Yes, I heard it on the radio.
Uh-huh.
A lot of it on the radio.
So that'll really bring back memories.
Yeah.
I've been out there a couple of times, and it just thrills me to go in the old building. Of course, it looks almost exactly like nearly all those school buildings did, except that it has electricity. Now, the last year it operated, or maybe the last several years, of course, that school was wired. Now, when I finished grade school in the class of 36, it didn't have any electricity. But this school ran, I'm told, till 56. And of course, by then, they had wired it. There's a cloakroom out front, and a water bucket, and a dipper, and a slate blackboard, and a recitation bench, and some desks.
Well, I hadn't seen it.
No.
I haven't seen it since I got it fixed.
I think you'll get a thrill out of it.
Well, maybe I'll get to go see it sometime.
I know I did. Every time I go, I just get carried away.
Well,
Now, do you recall any of the teachers you might have had?
yeah, I put him down here. David Inman. You remember him?
Why, of course I knew David. Harold was his son.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And John Lawrence Gregory, that's Java Gregory's.
I remember
Boy.
him. You know, I went to work in Paducah after World War II at the radio station there, and I believe he was president of Drawn's Business College. I'm pretty certain that was the same fellow.
Probably was. Yeah, well, he worked at Paducah.
Mm-hmm.
He taught down there or something down there.
Mhm.
I don't know just for sure. And then Mary Jo Holland, that's Woodrow's sister.
Oh, yes.
You remember her?
Mm-hmm.
And August Hayden.
I remember August Hayden, and I hadn't thought of him lately. But I know he went to Murray State. The first time I ever saw him, he was, I guess, at an alumni meeting. But since I've been working in Murray, starting in 1964, I know he was there. I believe he has since died.
Yeah, he's not living. And then Lorene Bowman. Now that's Eva Pfizer's sister and Miss Chandler's sister.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought more of her than all the rest of them put together, I guess.
Well,
she was really nice to us. She was really nice.
A favorite of yours.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, she was really nice.
What makes students like a teacher, I wonder? Do you recall just why you thought she was so good?
Well, no, I think she thought a lot of us, you know.
And you could sense that,
Yeah,
couldn't you?
yes, I sure could.
That she
Yeah.
was
That's-
terribly interested
Yes,
in the
we
children.
really loved her. We really loved her. You know, a lot of them had pets
Mm-hmm.
back, you know.
But she
she-
tried to treat everybody alike?
Right, right.
Okay, that's
She didn't have any.
one good feature.
Yeah.
And well, let me ask you this: did she make you mind pretty well, or let you do anything you wanted to?
No, she made us mind pretty good. She was
But you
good.
didn't resent that, as long as
No,
you were treated
no.
like everyone else.
That's right, that's right.
Well, that's good. What did you like most about school? Did you have a favorite subject like arithmetic or spelling or reading or
No, I hated,
geography or?
I liked reading, but I hated arithmetic.
That was never my favorite subject
Mine
either.
either. I just couldn't make it.
I was always more interested in other types of things, but of course, certainly there's a place for it.
Well, now I like spelling. I stood up the last one. I don't know if that is in the 4th, 5th, and so I was pretty proud of myself. And I really like that spelling pretty good.
Oh, that's something to be proud
Yeah.
of. And it's a talent that's not as widespread as it once was.
But now, the things, big words that I could spell back then, I can't seem to spell them now.
Well,
I don't know.
you're a day or two older than you were then. I never
Yeah,
did
quite a
ask you
bit.
how old you were.
I'm 66.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's been a little while,
Yes, it has.
and we tend to forget many things over the years.
It's true.
If that weren't true, we'd be awfully sad creatures, I
Right.
imagine,
We would.
because if you couldn't recover from some of your best memories, such as the loss of your dear husband, why,
Yes.
you'd just sit here and grieve all the
That's
time.
right,
wouldn't you?
that's right.
So it's good in a way. I guess the Lord knew what he was doing when he let us forget some things
That's true.
after a while.
Yeah.
All right, were there any games that you played that you could tell us about at school?
Oh, we got out there and played ball all the time.
Mm-hmm. Was
And-
that something like, did they call it town ball, or it's kind of a baseball game?
It was baseball like they play here on TV, you know.
Mhm.
And we got out there and played with the boys and girls, you know.
Were
And-
you a pretty good batter?
Well, yeah, I think so back then.
Oh, that's good. We had lots of
enjoyed
fun in those days.
And I like to see it on television now.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know, you know, what they're doing and everything because we played. And
And that brings back some good memories for you, doesn't it?
yes, it does.
Who were some of your schoolmates that you might remember from those days?
In my class, you mean?
Well, yeah, along about then, did you have a special girlfriend maybe that you, did they have double seats and you sat with someone?
No, we just had one
Uh-huh.
seat, you know. Well, of course, my two cousins was dear to me, you know,
Uh-huh.
and
Did you ever get struck on any little boys back in those?
well,
first days?
yeah, but I done forgot 'em.
Puppy love didn't last too long, did it?
No, most of our trouble going to school, you know, we had to walk
Yes.
and coming back. Well,
About how far did you have to go?
we walked a mile and a half, and I had two brothers that was younger than me and my sister. Well, a lot of the boys would pick on them,
Mhm.
and they'd fight them. Boy, here me and Euleen would fly in and try to whip them.
Yeah. Three
Yeah,
girls
boy,
could whip most any boy, couldn't they?
But we took up for them.
Well, when you got a little bit older in school, did you have any kind of Friday night entertainments or so on? I mean, like a pie supper or something?
I don't remember it if we did. I don't remember.
Sometimes the schools would have pie suppers, and they'd raise a little bit of money and buy some books or maps or things to go in the classroom. Did you didn't have a dining room at school, I don't suppose?
No, we had to take our lunch.
Mhm.
Every day, Mama'd get up and fry some apple pie. No, chocolate pie. Every morning.
Oh,
Every morning.
that sounds good to me. I remember those fried pies. They were wonderful, whether they were apple or chocolate or whatever they might have been. Did you ever trade anybody anything for lunch?
Yeah, it seemed like we'd swap an apple or orange or something like that with somebody.
Maybe one had something that they wanted from you and you wanted from
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. And half of the time somebody'd get in their lunch and eat it up.
Uh-huh.
Then we wouldn't have any. Oh.
Do you remember any kind of funny stories or things that when you were growing up that have stuck in your mind? Now, for example, I was just reading in the paper this afternoon, a lady had written how scared she got one Halloween, and they were at an old house she'd gone visiting, and they'd dressed up, and they'd come back, and they were all pretty scared anyway. So somebody got to telling that this house was haunted. And she, I think the others maybe dropped off to sleep, and she was lying there just sort of trembling in bed, and suddenly she heard the dinner bell ring. Well, she got up and looked out, and there wasn't anybody around the bell, so she knew it was a ghost. And she got screaming and yelling and got everybody up, and they went out there, and the man of the house lighted a lantern, and they got to looking, and there was an owl had alighted on the other side of that bell. She couldn't see it from where she was standing, and he'd flop his wings and move around a little bit every now and then, and that's what rang the bell.
Oh, my goodness.
I guess there's always an explanation for ghost stories.
That's right. If you get up and...
Well, I thought maybe you remembered something.
No, I can't recall that now.
Well, you finished school, and then did you get married pretty soon after that, or?
No, I didn't get married till I was 20.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds like a sensible age. Where did you meet your husband?
Well, you see, my brother, Chester, that died, he married my husband's sister.
Mm-hmm.
And in Wavell, York, you know Wavell, York.
Yes.
Well, all right, his wife was my husband's sister.
Mm-hmm.
So after they married, we would go down there and visit. Of course, we'd meet them all down there.
Mhm.
There's a big family of them.
So you were brought together in that particular way. Was it love at first sight?
I don't think so.
Took a while
I don't know about him.
Yeah. All right. Now, what did your husband do for a living?
Well, when we married, do you remember that ferry down below the dam?
Oh, yes.
All
I
right, that's
certainly
what
do.
he worked at,
Mhm.
bringing those cars, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a deckhand or what do they call that?
Well, there are deckhands, and I
Well.
guess that's what he was.
Yeah, he would. And then he worked at the dam a while. Then, sometime along there, he muscled. Did you ever?
Oh, I've heard of
Go ahead,
muscling. Maybe we ought to tell some of our listeners what muscling was, but those are fresh water shell creatures, sort of like oysters, I guess.
Yeah.
And they, as a matter of fact, they had a beautiful interior of the shell, and they took those things and sold them, and made, originally shirt buttons and things of that kind.
Yeah, he would cook them out, and he found,
A pearl.
yeah, some.
Mm-hmm.
And but I don't guess they was valued too much, you know. But anyway, he kept them.
In later years, they got to shipping those to Japan. The Japanese had discovered that what made a pearl was accidentally a piece of grit or shell or something would get inside of a mussel or a pearl-type oyster. And that creature's body formed this pearl around it to
Yeah.
kind of heal it up. It was an irritant. And they got to buying these shells in America and shipping them to Japan, and they got good money out of it then. And they made what they call cultured pearls. They artificially put that piece of mussel shell in there.
Yeah.
And then the oyster, pearl-type oyster, created a pearl around it.
Well, he made pretty good,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Well, a lot of people lived off muscling up and down
Yeah.
the Tennessee River.
Yeah, there was a man lives right close to us. He had a big family, and that's all he done, and he made a good living.
I remember the Dean Wilson Gant at Murray State once told me that as a young man he did a good bit of muscling. In fact, I think he put himself through college at that, or at least he helped in his college expenses. Well, now, my wife always said that your husband was the greatest painter she ever saw. I'm talking about painting a house inside and out and so on. Now, where did he learn that? Or just picked it up?
Well, it's been so long I've forgotten.
But someday or other he painted your house, maybe.
Probably.
Practiced on that
Yeah,
and
yeah, he
did a
always
good
painted.
job, and somebody else maybe saw what he'd done. And did he do that mostly in his later years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he loved it. You know, he liked his work. And
I know when we first moved to Benton, we bought a house over on 18th Street, and sometime after that, I don't remember the year, but we hired him to paint that house. And Janie just thought that he was a magician. He could put it on so smoothly, and he never seemed to drop anything on the. She said about my painting, and I hate it, but she told the truth, that I got it all over the windows.
well, he'd rather do the windows as anything else.
Mm-hmm. That's the
rather do
hardest thing in the world for me to do without just smearing it all over the place. I had to work 3 days after I'd finished with a razor blade scraping off what I got on the glass.
I think all his went on his clothes.
Well, Now, you would have noticed that because you had to do the laundry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Well, that's amazing how people have these talents. Did you have any children?
Yeah, two.
Had two children. Well,
Phyllis and Sue Green married Jerry Green
hmm
and got 4 grandkids.
Oh, that was my next question. Did you have any grandchildren?
Yeah, 2 boys and 2 girls.
Do they live anywhere near here?
Oh, yeah. Phyllis and Johnny, you know, the one that's a pastor up here at the Walnut Street, they live in 13 Main.
Now, that's
Where they-
Walnut Street Baptist Church, and just more or less across the road from here.
Right up here.
Uh-huh.
But they live 13 in Maine, where, you know, the Ely woman used to live.
Mm-hmm.
And in Sue and Jerry, they live, do you know Alvy Green?
Yes.
Like you're going back to Mary Green's?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sue and him lives the second house.
Mary Green was a great writer for the newspaper
Yeah.
and so on. In
Yeah.
fact, I've interviewed Mary Green.
Yeah.
She's a great person.
Well, they live back in there,
Uh-huh.
first house.
Well, you wouldn't happen to have any great-grandchildren, I don't suppose.
No.
Not
No.
yet, but one of these days.
Oh, yeah. Might.
All right. Well, let's get back to some of the old-time things that you used to do. Did you ever have to milk a cow?
Oh, yes. Yeah. One kicked me over one time. I thought then, well, I'll never milk anymore. But I did.
Went
Yeah.
back and well, now that is one thing that kept us going. One year, my dad made $14 on his tobacco crop. That was 1933. And had it not been for the fact that Mom had a few brown leghorn chickens that she could sell a few eggs or swap them to the peddlers or somebody for salt and soda and
Right.
sugar, I don't know how we'd ever gotten by.
Well, I don't know either, 'cause we had chickens, and one of these great big, a bucket, you've seen them,
Mm-hmm.
water buckets or something. We would take them off every Saturday
Yes.
and get our soda, you know, and baking powders, whatever. And of course, we eat all we wanted to.
Did you ever have one of those long buckets that you let down in the well or a cistern that cooled the milk?
We sure did. We put it down the cistern. Yeah, our butter.
Those were the good old days.
yeah.
Right. But there are a lot of things about today that I like better.
Well, yes. And me and my sister, we would, Mom would say, y'all get ready and churn now. Well, we would fight, see which one had to do it, you know.
Now, were you
We didn't
wanting
like-
to or wanting
No,
to
we
get
didn't
out?
want to.
You were going to
didn't
get
want
out
to.
of it.
We didn't want to.
Oh, did you have the old dasher type where
Yeah.
you bring it up and down?
Yeah,
up and
sure
down?
did.
Had the crossbars, the paddles
Mhm.
inside, and something sort of like a broom handle that
Right.
stuck up.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've still
Yeah.
got my mother's old churn.
You have, well.
I wouldn't take anything for it. It's not worth anything particularly, but it just reminds me of
Yeah,
her.
That's right.
And I know I'd always want to be reading. And it's kind of hard to read and churn.
That's right.
So jiggle the book around. And
Yeah.
as soon as I saw the first little fleck of butter come on that center hole, I'd say, Mother, it's finished. Well, she'd come and look.
Yeah, that's the way
You-
we do.
She'd say, why, that's not finished at all. You get back to work.
They'd have to put some warm water in it sometimes, you know, and get it just right.
Well, it could get so cold in our
Yeah.
houses in the winter, and I suppose you lived in a
Yeah,
house. Did
yeah.
any ice ever freeze in the house?
Oh, the dipper did all the time. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And part of the time we could see the chickens going across. I mean, you know, under the floor.
Oh, I've seen that many times. We rented various places here and there, and
Yeah.
frequently we didn't have rugs on the floor.
Oh, we didn't either. We
And
didn't either.
mother maybe would scratch up enough occasionally. About before I got out of college, we'd gotten real rich and making $100 a year. And she bought a 9x12 linoleum to go in the kitchen. But that was the only room that had a floor covering. And there are always a few big cracks or knot holes. And I've seen the chickens many times.
And we have too.
Kids at school, if I tell something like that, they don't believe it's so, but it was.
Well, I think some of them, they would take up a plank and get the eggs out from under the...
Mm-hmm. The hens would hide their nest out
Yeah.
under there. Did you ever wring a chicken's neck and
No. I have held them for Mama to
cut them
cut
off
'em
with a
off,
hatchet?
but I couldn't.
You know, my mother had kind of a knack some way. It seemed like she could just kind of just give the quick twist like, and that head would just come off just immediately.
Well, I couldn't do it.
But I never learned how. They'd always squawk and run and do around. But
We had geese.
did you ever pick them for feathers?
No, Mama did, and we'd have to hold her head, and they would bite her, and she'd holler at us, "Oh, hold that thing's head." Well, you couldn't hardly.
No.
You just couldn't.
They didn't particularly want their feathers
No,
plucked.
it hurt.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't take a half an hour long to get away, and we only have about a minute or so left. Do you have any special stories you'd like to tell before we go off the air? Do you remember anything that was, maybe a tragedy to you at the time or something funny?
Well, I can't think of anything.
When you got those feathers off, of course, they were used for a good purpose. You made pillows?
Feather beds.
Oh, you slept on a feather bed.
Yeah.
Now, when the wind came sailing up through those knot holes that you saw the chickens through, the feather bed felt pretty good.
It sure did. It sure did.
Yeah. How did you heat the house? Was it a fireplace?
Well, one of these big stoves like they had in our schools.
Mm-hmm. You call them pot-bellied stoves.
Well, they were real long, and Daddy would fill that up at night, and of course it would keep fire all night. Most of the time it would. And that's the kind we had.
Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you, Miss Harmen.
I'm proud you came, and I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you so much. We've been visiting today at the home of Lavione Harmen, Walnut Court in Benton, and we appreciate the interview and the chance to talk with her. If you'd like to be interviewed, we hope you'll call WCBL, or I'm Ray Mofield, I'm listed in the phone book, and we'd like to talk to anybody, preferably those 65 years old or so, who may remember a few things about the older days. And now we return you to our studios in Benton.